clear County traffic diamond 309 Delta Alpha, turning left base, runway 5.
Welcome to the official C1 Thalassa talk show, Thalask About It, where we talk all things analog. I'm your public affairs officer and host, Gabriel Bugay. As we progress through the talk show this morning, we encourage you to leave your questions in the chat with the hashtag AskSEA, where we'll answer them throughout the stream. Today, I'm joined by our very own faculty advisor and associate professor of space biology, Dr. Christopher Carr. How are you feeling this morning?
Good, and I just got a slightly new title, the Professor of Space Biology, so I love that. It's great.
Is that, I got that from Georgia Tech website. Is that good?
That sounds good to me. Let's
okay,
go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, you have a wide background spanning several fields of STEM, with experience in aerospace engineering, electrical engineering, medical physics, and molecular biology. What would you say is your favorite area of STEM?
Yeah, I think that is an impossible question for me, because what I really enjoy is the synthesis. And so bringing together those different fields that you mentioned. And I think it's taken me, I'm 50 now, it's taken me a long time to know something in different areas and be able to put those together in interesting ways. So that is what I love doing. Putting them together.
Yeah, well, what did you learn first in your education? What field did you train in first?
Well, I think that depends what you mean by education. For school, if I think about my undergrad experience, I was in aerospace engineering, aeroastro, and electrical engineering, but in both fields I was always interested in biology. So that's kind of the starting point there of my formal university education. But education, I think, is much broader than that.
Yeah.
And so part of that, I would say, in 1985, my parents bought an Intel 386 computer.
Oh, nice.
It was a big purchase at the time. I mean, I don't know if I would be. I think it was something like $5,000, which was a lot of money then. And they recognized, like, hey, this is going to be really important in the future, and we should do this. And during that process, we had somebody come and help and fix the computer and set things up, and they happened to leave a book on GW Basic. And so I had been going around asking every adult I knew, how do I program a computer? How do I program a computer? How do I program a computer? And nobody could give me a good answer. And then this book appeared. And so that was actually a key part of my education, was getting that, reading it. I started making choose your own adventure games on the computer. I made, line drawings of Star Trek shuttles and all sorts. I made a game called Spaceman. I wrote very convoluted basic code. So really that was, I think, in many ways, the beginning of my education in some ways.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't even know you had a little bit of a background in computer science, but that's really cool. The most I know about computer science was from computing for engineering back in freshman year. So, yeah, it's very cool. So, what gave you the idea for some of those games that you wanted to make?
Well, let's see. I'd have to go back. I already knew that I was interested in space at that time. Let's see, in 85, I would have been 8 or 9 years old. I was really interested in geology. In second grade, I decided I wanted to be a geological astrophysicist. And I'm not exactly that, but I'm, something in the ballpark, combining a bunch of different fields. And I remember in third grade, I know exactly where I was when the Challenger blew up. And that was a key moment. We might be jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but that was a key moment in my life, because I realized, hey, this is risky, and I would be willing to take that risk. And So I think those interests were already there, but that was a moment that crystallized for me. I am really interested in space exploration and in human space exploration, and finding life, although that came a little bit later.
Awesome. I mean, for me, it was second grade as well, which is kind of funny that the coincidence is exactly second grade when that passion for space kind of developed. For me, it was mainly looking up at the night sky, seeing all the stars and the moon and everything, and just wanting to explore and having that innate nature to advance humanity. But now I'm kind of in the same realm of like habitability, exoplanets, that kind of stuff that's really cool. And the bioastronautics came to me last year. I didn't even know that that was kind of an option for especially extracurriculars, and I'm glad that Vic, Alan, and Sarah really made it into an option through your seminar course, which is very cool. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what do you feel has been your most impactful research project in your career? Because you're a researcher, scientist, engineer, a lot of things.
Yeah, I think probably the simple answer would be I started a project after I got my PhD. I joined a project working with Maria Zubert at MIT and Gary Ruvkin at Mass General. And it was a project called SETG, the Search for Extraterrestrial Genomes. The idea was to send a device to Mars to look for life that's ancestrally related to life as we know it. And I think that the evidence that makes this a plausible thing to do has only grown with time. And so one of our key efforts was trying to convince the community that this was a reasonable thing to do. And I think that has shifted a lot. At times, it was considered, or I was told, it's crazy to bring a sequencer or bring a device to look for DNA on Mars. But now we recognize, like, hey, this is a good idea for a lot of reasons. It's a good idea because we know that the building blocks of life as we know it are widespread in the universe. The universe is a carbon chemistry factory and makes them basically everywhere. We also know early Mars might have been conducive to a cyanosulfidic origin of life, something that maybe could have gotten life started. We also have this idea that, well, we don't know how life actually started. It's plausible that life as we know it originated on Mars. And we also, even if that's not true, we would want to detect any contamination that we're bringing to Mars. So all of these reasons push us toward looking for nucleic acids on Mars, maybe not at the surface where we've been focusing our efforts so far, but deeper down where organics might be preserved. And so I think moving the needle on that in the community, that would probably be the easiest answer. But the real answer, I truly believe, is the people that I've worked with and the things that they're going to go on to do. That is by far, I think I will have a bigger impact in my life, helping other people in their journey. That's the amplification that I would hope and dream for everyone.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have you as a professor someday because I've heard a lot of great things about how you teach and just connect with the students that you have. So I actually was looking into your astrobiology seminar, and I think it was full when I got to
the bioastronautics seminar.
Yeah, or yes, that's what I mean. I was looking into that because Vic recommended it to Bella and I, and we were both looking into it, but I think it was full, and there might have been a prerequisite that we needed to fulfill. Not quite sure on, are there prerequisites for your seminar course?
Only being a graduate student.
Yeah, that was the one. And I was like, dang it, I'm gonna have to wait a little bit.
But I suspect that'll change in the future. It's been oversubscribed. I've only done this seminar twice, but the vision, I think that I'm hearing from other people, and the intention is to have a more full-fledged bioastronautics curriculum at Georgia Tech. In many ways, we have pieces of that already, but they're not put together in a way that is recognized as a program. So I know it's really limited. I'm sorry for that. It's the only time I've ever had an opportunity at Georgia Tech to teach a a truly, small seminar course. Everything else has been, bigger courses, project-based courses, standard lecture courses, et cetera. So it is kind of a special opportunity, but it's one that we want to open up to more people.
Yeah.
So I suspect we're going to create a full 3-credit bioastronautics, maybe other courses, and that's something that I really want to be student-driven. So
yeah, I think it would be really cool. I'm already envisioning some names like Intro to Bioastronautics, Intro to Suit Design, something like that. But that would be a really cool, like even just minor or certificate that you could get with your degree. I would definitely sign up for those courses. I'm sure many others involved in Southeast Analog and not involved in Southeast Analog would take up on that opportunity. And it's kind of like, it's definitely a growing thing, especially space. At Georgia Tech, it's always growing. And I believe the astrophysics department, I know the astrophysics minor is still relatively new. And I'm trying to work on astrophysics minor, but the courses, there's not very many course options right now. I think there's one section of the intro to modern physics that I need, and it's full already. So the demand is there. There's just not enough resources, I believe, for the professors who want to like actually dive into expanding that.
I can't speak to the astrophysics one very much, but I do know, one of the hats I wear is the co-director for the Center for Astrobiology, and we do have an undergraduate minor, we have a graduate certificate, we have astrobiology fellows, we have social events, we have lectures, we have a planetary science, astrobiology, planetary science and astrobiology seminar. So we have a lot of different elements that collectively our astrobiology community is more than the sum of those parts.
Yeah.
But those are some of the pieces that help to fill it out.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that in the bioastronautics space, we would be able to create a similar community. And honestly, I would say that Southeast Analog is doing that. Southeast Analog is doing that by bringing students together, doing actual things, just having seen the Mission Control Center. I can't wait to learn more about the current mission deployment.
I know, and we can't wait to have you again on Tuesday for
Sounds
some of
great.
that.
I'm looking forward to it. So I think that the vision is that we will have more of those things in place, and I don't think it is a big step from where we are today.
Yeah.
I think it will be a big impact for the people in the community to have those opportunities, but we can do this.
Yeah, the foundation feels like it's already there. We just have to build on it and get up to that kind of structure of a actual course load that is more expansive, maybe to undergrads or graduate students. But I'm really looking forward to seeing where bioastronautics goes at Georgia Tech.
Me too.
So where does your passion for bioastronautics come from?
Well, I mentioned the moment in third grade, and thought how that crystallized. Oh, I've already been feeling this way, and the Challenger, and so I think I always wanted to go into space.
Yeah.
As soon as I knew about that, I grew up watching the original Cosmos and watching Star Trek and reading Asimov and all these things, and so I always wanted to go into space. And then when I went to MIT, I basically went around knocking on professors' doors, and one of the doors I knocked on was Professor Larry Young. And I remember when I first met him, he basically said, "Oh, so what year are you at MIT?" "Oh, I'm a first-year student." "Okay. Well, do you think maybe you should, see how classes go, come back in a, semester or something?" And I said, "No, I really want to do research right now." And I really appreciate that he said, "Well, why don't you go talk to this graduate student?" And so I did a project related to ocular counter-rotation, which is how the eye moves in response to the G vector. And that got me started in doing bioastronautics related research. And I went on to work with Professor David Newman, and I worked on spacesuits, developing new technologies and understanding how we walk and run and move in spacesuits. And so that was my that was sort of the beginning of bioastronautics writ large for me.
That's really cool. I mean, research is definitely the gateway into a lot of these passions. I didn't know that I was passionate about neutrinos until I started looking into some of the neutrino labs. Shout out the ice cube in Antarctica.
Yep.
But there's some really, really cool opportunities that you really just have to ask. And I mean, I think Robin Gatens might have said this, but fear is usually the most like inhibiting thing about expanding your horizons. So you think you can't do something, but when you actually go and ask and talk about it and kind of push past that fear of, hey, maybe I'm like not old enough to do this, or
maybe I'm too old to do this.
Maybe this is a shot in the dark. When you still just push past, I mean, people are more willing to, I feel like people are more willing in general to provide opportunities than we all assume. So
you're so right. I think if you're able to stay in a, and this is something that I'm still learning in different parts of my life, if you're willing to stay in a creative headspace, the things you can do are pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that we're able to expand that here at Georgia Tech. I mean, what I really love about Georgia Tech is when I came here, I had access to all these creative resources that I didn't know existed until I got here. And like having the Aero Makerspace downstairs, or having just so many different aerospace clubs. I didn't realize we had so many, but just the sense of community and creativity here, just really, that's what brings the innovation at Georgia Tech. And I'm glad that we have the ability to enable that curiosity with amazing professors like you. And
well, you say that, but if I look out here at Mission Control, I see everything that you did. I didn't do one tiny bit of that. So
yeah, I think that's also one of the things that we're really grateful with for you, is that you really pushed us to do everything ourselves and make sure that you kind of ensured as our faculty advisor that it was going to be student-led by telling us, hey, only contact me if it's actually something that like if this is something that requires a professor or faculty advisor, then reach out to me. But otherwise, you guys need to learn how to do this. And by having that encouragement and kind of push, it really allowed us to make this something created by students for students. And we're really grateful that we had you just telling us that we can do it and that we don't need to rely on a faculty advisor to be able to accomplish this. But
well, I will say my own experience is just that you all just went and did things.
Yeah.
So I think that's wonderful. And I feel that my role is really just like make sure everyone's okay.
Yeah. And you've done a great job at that.
And otherwise, go to the stars. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one day, maybe in 20 years, we'll be seeing Georgia Tech with like an actual human rocketry division or something. That would be a little scary.
Never say never.
Never say never, but you never know. Kind of ironic. Never say never, but you never know. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your bioastronautics seminar course and just kind of like, can you give us an insight into what you kind of do in that course?
Yeah, the course is very much a survey. It is a series of discussions. So we read about the history of bioastronautics and some of the key literature, and we come to class or really discussion ready to talk about and try to understand, you know, what happens to humans when we go into altered or extreme environments, different gravity, different pressure, different oxygen tension, all these different environments that we might experience in space, and then try to put that together. And so that's what that discussion is for. And the way it works is I do a little bit of work, but really most of the weeks we have students who are presenting on some area that they have become a little bit more of an expert in. And then we're learning from each other. So it's a little more discussion-oriented, Socratic, and we also do some projects. The projects that we did last time it was taught were about envisioning the future of bioastronautics at Georgia Tech. And C was, Southeast Analog was one of the outcomes of that from Vic. And there were a bunch of other projects that are also bearing some fruit. And so we'll see what the projects are this semester. Who can tell?
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting if any competition to Southeast Analog developed, but I think providing more opportunity is exactly what we're looking for. So just more students getting involved with bioastronautics in one way or the other would be really cool. But I wonder what kind of research might come out of, or research interests might come out of the seminar course this year.
I could definitely see people getting interested in research or adding something to their existing research portfolio. That would be one outcome I would expect. But in terms of competition, I think one of the principles that I'm trying to operate under is not try to do something that someone else is already doing well.
Yeah, but pioneer a little bit more.
And so if there's a gap we can fill, great. But my intention with like creating a bioastronautics program at Georgia Tech is not to like necessarily compete with another school.
Yeah.
It's to fill a need that we have here. And what I actually want is to help to create a network where we're all aware of what are the opportunities and can best take advantage of whatever opportunity fits somebody's trajectory.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to see how we grow this year. We have some interest meetings and tours that we're doing next week. There's 4 meetings actually that we're having, which is a lot more than I thought we were going to have, but we're really excited to invite everybody in. So on Monday and Tuesday, we'll have an interest meeting and tour of our mission control spaces for prospective students. And we have, I think, about 40 people already RSVP'd to that.
Great, awesome.
So that's really exciting. And then Thursday and Friday, we'll have more of a like leadership involved interest meeting where people can learn about the specific sub-teams and how they can get involved that way. So I know we're going to have some good growth this year because we've been getting a lot of people already interested and asking, hey, where's your onboarding process? So just seeing that there is a community and there is that need and that it's being fulfilled progressively as we expand Southeast Analog and the bioastronautics at Georgia Tech, it's just amazing to see the progress actually fulfill a desire that students have to participate in the human factors side of spaceflight.
Let me ask you a question. We talked about like filling in gaps, and students are not students forever.
Yes.
What do you think is missing for students to make the next step more smooth or more in the direction they want? What do you think would change that, the current challenges that people are facing?
So like into their career that they want to go into? I feel like a lot of that would be more in terms of research access that's specific to human spaceflight. I feel like we have a lot of propulsion and rocketry, which is amazing, but I feel like a lot of those human factors like space suit design, it would be amazing to see some suit design, either research groups or just like organizations, or even, I know we have our habitat and suit design teams in our organization, but just something that has also a little bit more mentorship from people who might have experience in that realm. And because right now, a lot of this, as you've seen, is like student pioneered. So we're all basing our experiences or our work off of the experiences of especially our graduate students who have already gotten NASA internships, or we just had one of our actually recent undergrad graduates intern. It was Elias Pimentel, went and worked on suit design at, I think, in Arizona. So just like something where right now we're relying on the mentorship of our upperclassmen students, but also having maybe some professors who specialize in like suit design or in some of those different areas that are really critical.
So
to
maybe
human
this is a
spaceflight.
question for some of the potential, industry employers or other employers. What's missing.
Yeah.
And I'll take a stab at it. I think that, from my biased perspective, I think one of the challenges is that there's like a skills gap. In industry, you may be looking for someone who has more like practical experience combined with the theoretical knowledge. And so maybe research can help fill that gap because you're working with a system, or you're, building something and testing it and validating it. And that's true in propulsion, or it's true in, other areas as well. And so maybe one of the things I've been thinking about, talking with people about, is a more operational model.
Yes.
Like if you are getting a degree in a space area, maybe you should have some space operations. And maybe it's not a requirement like medical school, but maybe it's an opportunity.
Yes.
What if anyone who is in a space field could get space operations experience? And that could be, one way is you're doing that in the other room.
Yes.
Mission control, analog operations. Another could be being on console for an actual, a space mission, robotic or human or otherwise, whatever that mission is. So I think that's one thing I'm exploring, and I'd love for, if anyone's watching this if you're watching this online, that would be a great thing to comment on. I'd love to get your perspective.
I think it would also be amazing, like if Georgia Tech were able to get the funding for, I know funding is always a challenge when you're a public school because you rely on a lot of your donors in the state, and just there's a lot of interest going into how funding is distributed. But if we had resources dedicated to specifically bioastronautics, like a neutral buoyancy lab, that would be really cool to have here. Or like just like training facilities, or just anything that is specific to how we test astronaut preparation and human spaceflight preparation. Having those on-campus resources that we don't have to rely on external resources for would be amazing. I think that would fill a lot of gaps and bring in a lot of interest to Georgia Tech as that growing bioastronautics center in the Southeast. I know there's a couple areas that have them, like, I know University of Maryland has a neutral buoyancy lab, which is really cool. It would be really cool if we had our own. I love neutral buoyancy labs, if you can't tell. But just being able to really simulate the things that, because we have limited resources with our analog, we're in a bunker, but we're doing the best we can with our isolation aspects and all that kind of stuff. But if we had more immersive experiences that really pertain to those critical astronaut kind of, again, preparation, or like flight controller preparations, that kind of stuff, that would be really
some of the
interesting.
things we've been talking about are parabolic flight campaigns.
Yes.
So that's one possibility. A neutral buoyancy lab is pretty big and expensive. That would be a big one, and it's maybe a little bit specialized, but never say never.
Yeah.
And also there are other ways that you can simulate reduced gravity. So a reduced gravity simulator.
Even like
and we
cables.
are going to have shout out for Dr. Alvaro Romero Calvo. He's working on a drop tower system.
Yes, I've heard about that.
We are planning to have a new aerospace building, funding recently approved by the state. So that would be a really exciting. My hope is that we're going to see a drop tower as part of that building, which would both enable us to do very limited time, but very high fidelity, reduced gravity or weightlessness deployments of small systems, and that would be a really awesome ability to have it. That would be a really great capability for us to have at Georgia Tech.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that new building. I hope it's completed while I'm at least in my graduate studies, because I would love to take advantage of those spaces. I know they're going to put in a lot more for student organizations as well into those facilities. But I know that right now, currently, we're all making space wherever we can find, and the school is doing an amazing job at kind of finding that room while we're waiting for this new building. But it's definitely going to be a game changer.
Fun. I'm in a building that, the ESM building, built in 1939, and in the aftermath of the Great Depression. And despite the lead paint and asbestos, it's a really solid, lovely building.
Yeah.
And the rockets just come in and out of the basement all the time.
I've been in those rooms.
We've got a spacecraft operations center in the building. There's a clean room where propulsion systems for CubeSats are assembled. It's really it's a fun space, and there's going to be some transitions coming up that are very exciting. New building, and maybe it'll get a remodel, but it's a historic building, so.
Yeah, it definitely shows how resilient we are.
We're gonna keep the old and the new, I think.
I'm really glad that they're keeping the Montgomery Night, or is it is the front still called Montgomery Night?
I can't speak to all the future plans, but
I do know that the at least the front portion of the building will be kept because it is historic. I love seeing the entrance when you drive by over on North Avenue, but yeah, I love that little row of all those original Georgia Tech buildings that are still all brick, and that classic especially with those big trees that you see. It's a really beautiful campus. But moving on with the interview, so we've talked about kind of the future of bioastronautics, that kind of stuff. How can Southeast Analog support a bioastronautics curriculum if that were to be in development?
Well, I think the first and foremost, I would say, advocating for what you want. That is a very powerful. I will certainly. I cannot speak for everyone, but I will certainly respond to that. It takes faculty to sign off on things and whatever, make things official. But I think there's so much that you and others can get done that doesn't require anyone else's permission or for sort of minimal permission, to be under the Georgia Tech roof or whatever. So I think, try to take as many steps as you can that don't require other people's permission, and then get it when you need it. And I'm here to support that. And so that's one part. Advocate for what you want.
Absolutely. I mean, with Titan Ranch, we were supposed to, the original bill was tough to pass because it doesn't fit nicely into the categories.
Excuse me.
It doesn't fit nicely into the categories that are required by kind of like just state funding. So we had to really be strategic about it. And Student Government Association, they couldn't initially approve the bill, but they provided us a lot of resources on how we could appeal it and work to approve it in other means. So they helped us work with the Dean of Students to get it approved, and he was able to overturn the decision and get us that funding. So we've learned a lot about government and business, surprisingly, as engineers. So it's really fun when you have that interdisciplinary core to an organization. All of the student organizations operate in that way, but especially learning firsthand just how you have to be strategic with sponsorships and with bill funding and marketing, all of that going into an effort to get what we have right now. So really excited to see what next year brings, especially after the ongoing success of this first mission.
Awesome. I think, sometimes there are rules that get in the way. The rules are there for a reason.
Yeah.
But I think when an institution is able to recognize, hey, we think that this was triggering something, but there's a reason why we can approve this, or how we can make it possible for something special to happen.
Yeah.
I think that is that's really important when you have an institution that's able to take a second look, or come up with a workaround for something that is important and valuable.
Yeah, Georgia Tech has been very expressive of their kind of investment into our organization ongoing. Just with, we have media coverage that will be coming from Georgia Tech Institute itself. And we have a lot of support, of course, from the AE department. They've been really helpful in our process, especially. I want to give a shout out to the communications department in aerospace engineering.
That's awesome.
Because they have given us so many resources and tips on how we can really elevate our mission to the highest extent. And the Space Research Institute as well has been extremely helpful in getting us where we need to be.
Fantastic.
So just all the support, we have the Space Research Institute, we have the Alumni Association Student Foundation, we have, the Georgia Tech Foundation. We have all of this advising and support coming from Georgia Tech because they want to see students thrive. And I think that's amazing how we have those opportunities here. And even at University of Central Florida, which is going to be our newest chapter, we have some amazing people who are really working to generate that community over in another university because they also see how great Southeast Analog can be with other students inter-university. So I'm really excited to see how this expands and involves more students as the time goes on. But my last question for you today, now if there's one thing you could change or fix in the space industry, what would it be? And if you want me to answer, because I have an idea too, I would say funding personally. I would love to see more funding in the space industry, both private and government, because there's so many cool projects that could happen if they had the funding.
Well, I do think our investment priorities could be different. I do think, nationally we're underinvesting in fundamental research right now.
Yes.
And we certainly are doing fundamental research in space, in robotic and planetary missions. Maybe neutrinos would be an example of fundamental research as well, since you mentioned those earlier. So I think fundamental research is one, but I think one of those is maybe goes back to the skills gap that I mentioned earlier. There might be a perceived gap between companies on the one hand are saying things like, hey, we can't find the right person to hire, and then from the student perspective, I had put out 100 applications and I can't get an interview. And so there's this perceived gap. So part of that is like, what pulls you out from the crowd, and do you have the expertise that industry is looking for? And maybe operational experience can help fill that in, whether it's analog mission control, building this and being a part of it. And so maybe it's those kinds of operational experience, the conceive, design, implement, operate paradigm, doing research, having the thing that you built operating in the world, showing that you can build things, you can operate things successfully. Maybe those would be some of the opportunities that would help people better navigate the transition to their next step. Awesome. And I would imagine in the AI world that might become increasingly important when effectively the cost of knowledge is going to zero. So, and I think that's something that, we're grappling with in academia, like how should academia change in response to this? And maybe it'll help us focus more on what students need. I'm not sure, but that's my hope.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We're really excited to have you back on Tuesday for a special gift we'd like to give you. And I'll let it be a surprise. It's really cool. I think you'll really like it. So we're looking forward to having you off stage, talk to Vic, and she will be able to get you a flight tag and a mission patch for your own keepsake. We have some pretty cool things. Tell her it's in my backpack because I don't know if she knows exactly where it is, but we want to give that to you as a thanks for being such a great supporter of our mission and really pushing us to excel in our own student leading and development of this mission.
It's my pleasure. You all are amazing. And next time we'll talk about space farming and rain on Mars.
Yes, I'm very excited. I would love to talk about that with you. So just anytime you want to talk about space and all that, I would love to have that conversation with you. I'm always interested to hear more facts and share some.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya. And you can just walk back there and take off your mic, and we'll send you on.
First, then you can keep it.
Yeah, we'll give that one to you. But next up, we'll have Kira on the talk show talking about ecom. one of our flight controller positions. Okay. We have some questions in the chat right now. Okay, Vic, you don't need to say how many times has Gabe confused bioastronautics and astrobiology. That's a little unnecessary. All right, there you go. Have a good one. All right, so let's answer some questions real quick while we wait for our next guest. So what's that little astronaut's name and her capybara? So we don't have a name for the astronaut. Kira, what do you think the name should be for the astronaut?
Well, it's riding a capybara.
Uh-huh.
So it should be something like, rider's too obvious, but like.
What about Thalassa? Technically, that's the name of
The sea goddess.
yeah, the sea goddess. Or I'm not sure.
I mean,
But-
do Wrangler the astronaut.
Wrangler? Sure, we'll do Wrangler the astronaut, and this is her capybara. This is the public affairs officer's, here, I'll hold it up for you. This is the public affairs officer's mascot that we have on our desk. So this is our fun little, I guess, toy that we have around. Many of the consoles have their own little mascot that they have. OSO has 4. I think 1 for each OSO, which is a lot of fun. But we'll answer another question from Vic again. I'm a student interested in bioastronautics. Should I study aerospace engineering or biology? Ooh, I would have to defer that to Dr. Carr if you would contact him on his email or something. But personally, I would say aerospace engineering because that gets you a lot of design aspects. Biology would be really cool, but I think you would maybe want to focus a little bit more on the engineering side of things. But you can join me on the show, and I'll just continue asking some questions. We can talk about them too if you want. What is the best way to get involved with research and get started? I'm not sure exactly. I've just been doing what I think is the best way right now. I have been cold emailing professors.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the departments have pages dedicated to the research that they're doing. So you just kind of go on there and find the stuff that looks interesting and just shoot for it, you know?
Yeah. And then, of course, the question that's how many times has Gabe confused bioastronautics and astrobiology? I think it was twice.
I can't say, I don't know.
If Vic has been keeping count, I'll ask her, but I don't know. All right, what companies are most enthused about pursuing bioastronautics, and what cool projects are they undertaking? I don't have an answer to that. I don't really know. There's a lot of really cool space startups out there that are working on space station development, satellites, rocketry, just a lot of innovation in the space industry.
Yeah.
All of it kind of applies to bioastronautics in the sense that it's all for human spaceflight.
Yeah.
But I don't know any specific bioastronautics companies.
Not specifically for bioastronautics.
Yeah.
I think it's all kind of, I think maybe a lot of them kind of touch it, but it's not dedicated to it.
On a scale of 0 to 1 Garns, how space sick would you say the crew is right now?
Ooh.
I don't know what a Garn is.
Oh, okay.
Let me search that up. Do you know?
Essentially, it was one of the astronauts. I think he was a senator. Is it Jake Garn? Anyway, he was like the worst case of space sickness that we've ever encountered, and it's kind of like a running joke / informal rating system of how sick you can get in space. One guard being extremely sick, and I guess they say that most astronauts encounter like a 1/10 of a Garn when they're, or experience a 1/10 of a Garn while they're in space.
What would you say they are? Because right now they're missing the sun a bit.
They're definitely, yeah. The spirits are a little bit lower than they were. The excitement of being in the hab and doing all of our experiments.
It gets a little hard when you're on a schedule every day. You're not
yeah.
seeing the sun. You're eating
the
astronaut
same thing,
food.
kind of. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I would say probably. I mean, what they said, most people experience a tenth of a Garn. I would say probably even less than that.
Yeah.
I would assume. You know, I think they're still doing well. We've been scheduling some more fun activities for them. I know they got
to
some
do
watercolors yesterday.
Yeah.
Did you see those?
I did not, but I would like
you
to
should-
see their
you should
art.
See them. There's some.
I'm gonna hang it up on my fridge.
Yeah, yeah, they look really good. I know we kind of switched up their exercise routine a little bit.
They gotta do some Just Dance
some Zumba
that we
action,
uplinked.
you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was good.
So definitely, we're working on getting their spirits up by.
Yeah.
I think we filmed a TikTok for them today, so just anything to really cheer them up.
Yeah.
I think they're still having a good time. They're still getting their research objectives done. They're just having a little bit of a struggle with the isolation aspect, and
so.
I would too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That's why I
mean,
didn't
they can't
apply.
Talk to their families or their friends, and again, it's not saying the sun is harsher than you would expect. So.
Yeah, but just about 2.5 more days for them, and they'll be
kind of crazy.
They'll be doing well. So, really excited to see how the rest of the mission goes, and then. Again, Vic said, I'm an incoming freshman. How do I join? I want to build a spacesuit, maybe a moth-resistant one. Moth, you won't be getting into those suits. So, I need to check up again on our leadership list to remember who everybody's roles are for next year. I know that's kind of bad as the incoming president, but I've been so focused on the mission, I've been forgetting.
Got to get over the hill and then we'll see the horizon, you know?
Yeah, but we would love to provide more resources to the astronaut suit design team.
Yeah.
Give them a little bit more to work with so that they can get a better system going on. And
I mean, we're learning from all the stuff that's happening this mission too, you know, so.
It would be really cool if we could get some like Velcro action that they could seal themselves in.
Sure.
And
I mean, I know I've heard whispers about pressurized suits, and I'm not sure exactly how close that will be, but
initial concept designs would be really cool.
Oh, for sure. You know, at least starting the kind of the literary review and stuff like that, trying to figure out where we should go with it.
But yeah, if you'd like to get involved with Southeast Analog, the best thing for you to do is come to our interest meetings next week. So we have 4 of them. You only really need to come to one, but you can come to as many as you'd like. We have 2 on Monday and Tuesday. That's still taking place during the mission, so we'll have our mission control center set up. And after we give you a presentation on Southeast Analog, we'll take you over and give you a tour. And then on next Thursday and Friday, we'll have more of our leadership involved in that, where they'll be able to answer questions about their sub-teams and how you can get involved and what they're kind of looking for in this next year on just their kind of plans. Because, I mean, my goal as president is to just provide as much support to our leaders of the organization so that they can really accomplish what they're looking to accomplish and just really help provide that structure. I don't want to be like, you are doing this. I want it to be, tell me what you want to do and I'll be here to support you.
Yeah.
So
I think that's kind of the point of having the different teams, right? Is that everybody kind of specializes in their own thing, and you help to coordinate, right? But that way people don't have to worry about taking up tasks that they don't necessarily feel competent or confident in completing.
Exactly. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. So Jacob's going to actually put up a little picture from our Instagram to just kind of show. I recommend you take a screenshot right now. That'll give you some more information if you want to hold on to that. So it'll give you your location, your times, and that'll help you just get where you need to be a part of Southeast Analog next year.
Exciting.
So yes, we're very excited for this, and we'll really get a lot of people involved in the organization starting in September. But right now we're going to be in our onboarding process and also recapping and debriefing the mission itself. So there will be a lot happening at the same time, but we're really excited to take it on. Let's get into some of your questions that I have for you today.
Sure.
So you're in ecom. Can you first explain the acronym and then what ecom does?
Yeah, so ECOM stands for Electrical, Environmental, and Consumables Manager. I learned that when I transferred to the console, very shortly before the mission started.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually originally going to be one of our EVA flight controllers, but I switched over to ECOM, and it's been a great experience so far. So yeah, ECOM, Electrical, Environmental, Consumables Manager, and so it's kind of in the name, but we handle all of the power systems to the hab. We have a couple different, we have like solar arrays and RTG and stuff that powers our environmental systems, like the ECLIS, so the Environmental Control and Life Support System. So that would be making sure that our astronauts stay healthy and alive, making sure they get the oxygen that they need to breathe, and that the cabin pressure is just right for them, that it's not too humid. It's kind of a situation of like extreme Goldilocks porridge. It's like if we don't get it right, the consequences are pretty dire, but yeah, so that's kind of what we do on the ECOM console.
And dire in terms of simulated.
In terms of simulated, correct. Yeah. So most of our telemetry values, which is just, I don't know, did you know what telemetry is? Telemetry is just like values for different data points. Like for example, like I was saying, oxygen levels in the hab that we, as flight controllers,
so you have a number and like a graph kind of thing.
So if you were to walk behind the ECOM desk right now, you would see a couple of different dashboards up or displays that have a bunch of different graphs with different colors. Some of them are oscillating up and down. Some of them are kind of staying steady. But yeah, they're all like different values for example, like I was like the cabin pressure is maintained at 1 atmosphere and whatnot. But yeah, so most of those are simulated because just the nature of the habitat that we're using this year, it's not feasible to kind of set up the equipment that would allow us to get like the real values for that.
Hopefully we can invest in more equipment like that next year.
That is the hope. When we do our next mission, have the equipment to measure that, and even hopefully once we build our own habitat, we'll have it all integrated in there, and so that's the goal. But for right now, we're using simulated telemetry. So consequences, not actually dire, but in simulation, when the oxygen levels increase in the habitat, there's a higher risk of fire, and fire in space is kind of like, that's it.
You don't want that.
If you can't contain it, then the astronauts don't really have anywhere to go. So
yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, kind of scary, but exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're talking about some of that telemetry. Can you tell us around how many different telemetry readings you have and where they come from?
Yeah.
Just the ones that aren't simulated.
Okay, so as far as total telemetry values, we have 140, which is kind of crazy. So
that is a lot.
We have, I believe most of the consoles have like one dashboard. They're kind of all able to fit it on one screen. ECOM, on the other hand, has 4. We have it split into the power dashboard, the consumables dashboard, the environmental dashboard, and then the last one would be, I'm trying to think about the tabs I have open right now. But essentially, we have 4 different dashboards with a bunch of different graphs on them. And as far as real values go, what the plan was for the mission was to have the water, just the potable water that we have, that the crew has access to for drinking and preparing their food, because it's like freeze dried and whatnot. That was one of the values, and then obviously just the amount of food that they have in the hab as well, the consumables. Unfortunately, we did have a little bit of a problem with the water meter that we had installed over at the hab, and so while the telemetry value isn't up on our dashboard, we do technically still have the real telemetry value for the amount of water that the habitat has. We'll just have we're having the crew manage and track the amount of times that they're washing their hands and that they're flushing the toilet, and that they shower and whatnot, so we can kind of get an estimate of how many liters they use, and we're just doing those calculations by hand rather than having it as a graph, which is it's fun. It's a little bit more hands-on, so I can't complain about the not necessarily having it up on the dashboard. So
that's really cool.
yeah.
I'm glad you guys were able to kind of troubleshoot that situation
sure.
a little bit. So how do you handle simulated emergencies when they arise?
Yeah. So ecom is definitely one of the, because most of our telemetry values are simulated, we encounter a lot of different malinjections, which is essentially when we have this simulated telemetry and something goes wrong with it. So what we have is we have a list of standard operating procedures, is what they're called. But essentially, before the mission, we all kind of sit down and we try and think about, well, here are our systems, here are our values, what can go wrong with these, and what's the effect, And so we sit down and we write out kind of the steps that we should be taking in order to mitigate the negative impact on the crew and the habitat, and then obviously the steps that should be taken to restore the function of whatever has been broken, or stuff like that. And so what we do is we kind of we first have to look at the telemetry and say, it's kind of like a puzzle. You're given different pieces, and you have to figure out how these systems are connected. Just now, actually, I walked out of a malinjection that I was given, and the oxygen levels in the habitat were decreasing, the cabin pressure was decreasing, and the CO2 levels were increasing. And so you have to look at that and you say, well, what systems are related to that? And then once you figure it out, you go, okay, well, maybe it's the oxygen generator. Then you go, okay, but CO2 levels are increasing, so maybe it's the CO2 scrubber. And so you kind of, once you figure out what the root of the problem is, you look at those standard operating procedures that you've written, and you kind of take the steps to I guess fix it. That's the hope, right? Because again, like I said, most of these problems, if they are not fixed, they spiral pretty quickly. So
yeah, and it's all simulated.
It is all simulated. Yeah. Sorry, I guess I'm making it seem like I'm like.
No. It's just good to clarify for the audience. We don't want angry parents saying the oxygen levels are decreasing. Simulated.
No, yeah, but it does help. I mean, at least personally, I do like to put myself in the mindset that it's not just because
that it's real, so that you can respond to it.
Exactly, and your decision making is different under stress and under pressure, right? So that's the point of the analog, right?
We get really immersed.
Exactly, it's to carry out these operations without the actual risk of being in space and being on Mars with no way out, right? We get the practice before eventually we go there as in real life.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting.
So we've talked about what you guys do during a simulated emergency. What does the recovery process look like?
Yeah, okay. So for these simulated emergencies, like I said, we kind of have a set of steps that we follow, and sometimes they're not like perfect for the situation, but you kind of mash them together and do what you think fits the situation best, right? And because of the fact that the mission is on Mars, we have a simulated communications delay of 20 minutes one way, correct? So we have takes 20 minutes for any signal from Earth to get to Mars or the habitat, and then 20 minutes for any signal from the habitat to get back to us. And so ECOM, unfortunately, doesn't have the privilege of being in the habitat and being able to look at stuff themselves, you know, and see, for example, if our water reclamation tank is leaking, or if, like I said, the CO2 scrubber is failing to work. And so the only thing we can do is advise the crew to look at these things. But because of that communications delay, it's kind of a weird situation. You know what you think you should be doing to fix the problem, but once you kind of give that command, you kind of talk to the flight director and say, you know, this is what I think the crew should do. You just kind of have to wait, and it's weird. It's definitely weird not being able to take personal action for the issues. But usually, you know, once you find the fix, you just wait, and 40 minutes goes by. If you see your telemetry kind of improving, then you know, okay, take a breath, everything's good. If not, you still take a breath and you go, okay, what next? But yeah, recovering from them usually after the first solution, we're able to get it all situated, and then we just kind of we go, okay, well, how do we prevent it from happening next time? And that's kind of it. Yeah. So.
Well, awesome. And then I think my last question for you is, what is your favorite part of your day? That can be as ecom or as just even a student here with Southeast Analog.
Yeah. I would say that my favorite part of the day here at MCC is probably coordinating with the other consoles. There's a lot of times where, I mean, like I said, there's 140 different telemetry values. It's easy to kind of get sucked into the computer a little bit and, you know, trying to make sure that everything is okay. But for example, in these simulated emergencies, you have the chance to kind of talk to these different consoles and formulate a plan, and it's really cool to see everybody's expertise on their own systems come into play, and you can appreciate kind of the organism that MCC is. You know, we all kind of we all operate together, and then you know, the flight director is kind of like the last little step before any of our, you know, commands go through to the hab. But yeah, I think the coordination is pretty fun. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, yeah.
It was really nice to learn a little bit more about what ecom does on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, that's all I can give you. You guys learned what ecom is pretty much a week after I did. So yeah, hopefully I was able to provide some good insight. And if you guys are watching and want to be ecom next year, sign up. You know, we'll give you the rundown.
Yeah, we'll give you those forms later on in the semester. But for now, I hope you have a great rest of your day as ecom, and I hope that you don't have too many crazy malinjects.
We'll see how nice Vic is feeling.
Yeah.
So it's a coin toss. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll head out.
All right. Now, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about the COTS rover. That stands for Commercial Off the Shelf, and that was developed by I believe, it was developed by university students in Bolivia. These students are currently on the salt flats in Bolivia with the rover. So with that rover, they are kind of walking around while the crew controls it remotely in Arkansas. So the crew and the rover are not operating on a time delay because we're simulating as if the rover is on Mars with them. So this would be like if they were controlling it from their habitat while it's outside the habitat. But here in Mission Control Center, we have our own separate control system that is 20 minutes delayed, which is really cool. But the COTS rover and the students who have worked very hard on it have been providing us some really cool footage. We'll also show some footage from the astronauts, but first, I want to give a shout out to the university team. Let's take a look at, or actually I'll provide the shout out afterwards, but let's take a look at some of that footage from Emilio, our crew medical officer, handling some of that rover controls.
It is pretty overexposed, huh?
Yeah. Let me try and get his picture. Let me get his face. First get his face real quick. And then.
So that's just some footage of command or crew medical officer Larrazabal just kind of controlling that remotely from a laptop in the habitat. If you would like to see specific footage of the actual rover on the salt flats, I encourage you to go onto Instagram and search up IEEE.AESS.UCB. That account will give you really great footage of the COTS rover and kind of the development behind it over down in Bolivia. But we also have some photos of astronaut Emilio looking at or posing with his little display, and we have also another clip of them just kind of seeing a response from the rover.
Wow.
It's up.
Wow.
It's up. The video.
Okay. Can we confirm?
So there you have them just kind of getting used to the controls. That project will continue on for a few more days, I believe. They'll be doing some controlling of that today to get some more data on how some other astronauts control it. So we're really excited to see how they do that. But now we'll move into our last little segment of the astronauts interview from, I believe, yesterday. So let's take a look at what the astronauts have to say about where they're at in the mission.
First question is, now that we're halfway through the mission, how are we feeling and what are we doing to stay energized and focused?
We've been playing a lot of card games.
Keeping morale up, except when he loses.
Well, man, she's a sore loser.
No, I've been robbed of victory multiple times.
So as you can see, this gets us energized.
So
Gets us
energized.
riled up
We're all
and
good about it.
yeah, and this keeps our spirits high.
Also, the morning coffee. I think that's
That too.
universal favorite.
Yes.
But I think overall we're all feeling pretty excited. It's Sol 7, so like we're reaching the end of the mission. So we're doing pretty. It's been a really fun time. We've done a lot of we've done EVAs. All of us have gotten a chance to do an EVA. We've done various different research projects so far. So yeah, there's some more research projects that are going to be happening the next 3 days, which are going to be really exciting.
Yeah, so yeah, we have one starting today, which is really cool. We're remotely driving a rover that's going to be on the Bolivian salt flats, and so I think we're all really excited to be able to do that. It's super cool. So yeah, lots of new things every day. Just a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. So our next question is, what is something we've learned during the first half of our mission that we'll take with us after the mission ends?
How quickly you can like get into the swing of things. Like I feel like we knew each other before this, but we didn't know each other that well. And I feel like we all are very, very close now, even after only 7 souls. And like the friendship I think we'll take with us for sure the rest of ever, I guess.
Yeah.
I think also just like working in such a interesting environment and like getting the opportunity to work in such a interesting scenario is something that I feel like we can apply in most situations. Like with the 40-minute time delay, now we know how to send messages and like communicate effectively in like short periods of time. So we know what information is necessary, what information we need to communicate. So it's skills that we're developing that can help us in everyday life as well. And it's like the comms delay is one example, but there's so many other stuff that we can apply into various parts. So I'm excited to see how the rest of the souls like more skills that we'll develop.
Yeah. Something like this requires a lot of adaptability and a lot of flexibility, which is something that I think we've all grown in over the past 7 souls, and we will continue to grow in the last 3. But also for the rest of our lives, for the rest of our careers, I think we've learned a lot of valuable lessons about that.
Yeah, I think adding on to that, I think I absolutely agree. There's tons of, everyday skills that are really universal that you can learn in an environment like this. But I also think, I'm really interested in, for the rest of my career working within human space flight and trying to figure out how do we develop missions for future space exploration. I think that's true of a lot of us here. And I think being in this environment firsthand where you can say, oh, let's say, one day we're going to try and design a mission to Mars and we need to figure out how are we going to communicate with this time delay, or how are we going to problem solve? How do you train for a mission like that? How do you prepare for a mission like that? And being in this simulated environment where we're getting some of those experiences firsthand and able to say, well, I know what it feels like to have to work in this sort of environment. Obviously, a simulated version, but can help better inform all of us as we go forward in our careers and want to start working on actual missions like this, inform the decisions we make and the work that we do moving forward.
I also think that having this experience of living in a place that is very separated from the outside world, it has made us all very grateful for the things that we can have in the habitat. And I think that's true of a lot of human space studies. One of the biggest things that it does is, while yes, we do learn a lot about what is outside of Earth, but I think one of the most important things is that studying space makes us so much more grateful and really increases our love of Earth and life here. So our next question is, what are we looking forward to accomplishing today, and what's on the agenda for the crew?
Yeah, so like Ariella briefly mentioned, today we are starting a new research project that is run from Bolivia, which is really cool that Southeast Analog has expanded from beyond the United States to get research from another country involved. And what we're testing is essentially a user interface of a rover that will be driving on the Bolivian salt flats. And we'll be communicating with the team in Bolivia. And I just think that is such a unique experience that while we're here as analog astronauts, we're also getting the opportunity to pursue real research projects that I would have otherwise never had the opportunity to work with. And I'm excited for that today.
I think that is definitely something we're all looking forward to. So I think today is me and Commander will be kind of operating the rover. And then in the subsequent days, we'll all each get a turn to kind of drive the rover. So it takes a lot of coordination between us and then the university in Bolivia. And so this is going to be our first time trying it out. So we're all real excited.
And finally, if we could describe today's mission in 3 words, what would they be?
Amaze, amaze, amaze.
Is that one word?
No, that counts.
That's 3 words.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Amaze, amaze, amaze.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Lights into the crew. I think it's just amazing how many Project Hail Mary references we've all been making. That's like the best movie of the year, and honestly one of the best movies of all time in my opinion. So I love that we're all just kind of in that community reference frame of like, we're gonna make all of our references about Project Hail Mary. I mean, our first crew wake up song was a kazoo rendition of Sign of the Times by Harry Styles. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling, with 1 being I am not an astronaut and 10 being amaze, amaze, amaze with the thumbs down emoji? I love the little references we have. But just kind of going back and digesting some of those things that they were saying. The astronauts, again, as we mentioned, they're having a little bit of a struggle with not being able to enjoy Earth. It does truly feel like they're on Mars and isolated away, because we have them do their EVAs at night to make it more realistic in the aspects of like greenery, and just like everything is a lot more, when you just have the gravel, it's a lot more immersive. And just some of those little things that really make you appreciate Earth. I know Sophie was talking about a newfound appreciation that she has for Earth, and just like that perspective that has widened all of their kind of horizons on, or it's widened their perspectives in terms of human space flight. So as Ariella was saying, a lot of them are wanting to go into human space flight after this and build a career there, and just having this experience in an isolated habitat really helps them bring a perspective of an astronaut into the work they're doing, so that when they're designing with humanity in mind. And I mean, back to the card games, apparently Umesh is a sore loser, according to the other astronauts. When he brought up the card games, it didn't sound like he was too excited about it, but we got to see them doing some Just Dance activities yesterday to get them moving in a more exciting way. They're still pretty excited about the mission and just the EVAs and all that fun stuff that they are doing. Just again, missing the sun a little bit. That's to be expected. And we're really glad that we're kind of seeing that part of the simulation come out, because it helps us better prepare in the future on how we can problem solve with that kind of mental challenge that we have. As they mentioned, they were starting the COTS rover research project. So we talked about that a little while ago. I encourage you to explore that Instagram account. We'll put it in the chat for you, and just have more of an interesting perspective on how that's going. Looking forward to see them all start to control that rover from where they're at. They're also learning more about those communication skills that they need for the delays. We are as well. It's a bit of a challenge to put everything concisely and make sure that we're getting as much in our kind of information packages as we can, and then also repeating those. So there's a lot of planning that goes into just a simple communication between Earth and the habitat. So we're experiencing the same issues as them, and we're just excited that we're all getting this firsthand experience to be able to troubleshoot this in real time. We're also all learning adaptability. The crew is learning adaptability to their environments. We are learning adaptability to our just mission control center and operating on a Mars schedule here on Earth. It's very interesting to be, I mean, I personally don't have the experience because as a public affairs officer, I'm here for you. So I come in at a normal time, but everybody else has shifted about 6 hours at this point in terms of their shift start time, roughly. But they are all, I think it's actually at 5. I think it'll end around 6.5 or so. But each day, everybody has to go in a little bit later, about 40 minutes later than they were the day before, and get to work at odd times of day. So it's fun to see everybody adapting to that, and also just really working to make this mission happen. There's everyday skills that are critical, and there's also skills that you have to learn specifically for the mission. So like, I mean, critical planning skills, that's kind of an everyday thing. You want to plan out your day, but also thinking about how are you going to plan for other people, and then also how are you going to communicate on a loop, that kind of stuff that you have to learn outside of your typical skills that you have every day. And same with the astronauts. They've had to learn how to operate different rovers, do EVAs, while also still learning how to just exercise and operate on a schedule that's not their own, but adapt like we all have to. But very interesting to see and hear their perspectives. And, you know, they're getting firsthand experience to just help develop the future of human spaceflight and experience these unique research projects that are happening with our mission. So we're excited to see the research projects we bring in next year and have our astronauts do those. But currently we have some great ones that are going on. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up this talk show today. Reminder that if you would like to participate, oh my gosh, I just read the chat. Who is this, Sussy Baka? Oh. Anyways, if you would like to participate in Southeast Analog, again, we have our mission or our information meetings, interest meetings happening next week. We have 4 of them. On Thursday and Friday, I do want to let you know that those will be hybrid meetings. So we'll send out links on our social medias so that you can participate in that, as well as show up in person at Montgomery Night Room 317. There's more information on our socials, but just stay tuned for more details on how you can get involved with Southeast Analog. If you would like to support our mission in any way possible, we encourage you to check out our merch site. That all went up about a week and a half ago, and people have been responding to it very well. We have some great merch items, and we're excited to, in a few weeks, roll out some more items to you all that we've been working on. So we're really excited to share that with you. And again, last thing, if you'd like to support our mission further, we encourage you to go to our Give Butter and donate there, or just come and ask questions, because the more awareness that we have, the better we have, I guess, publicity. But here, oh no, my computer froze. Well, I'll give my exit statement. We thank you for joining us this Sunday morning, and we hope you join us tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where we will have Dr. Michael Gazarek on our talk show. He is the director of the the executive director of the Georgia Tech Research Institute. He's a very interesting guy, and we're really excited to have him on our show and in our Mission Control Center. Other than that, we hope you have a great rest of your day, and don't forget to Thalask About It.